My next Patreon question is from Benjamin, who would like to know if I've ever thought of making my own show or movie. I think a lot of cinephiles have this fantasy of thinking what kind of movie they would make if they had the resources and know-how. After all, we're all influenced by our favorites and have ideas that swirl around in our heads. I certainly have had ones, although aside from little Lego movies I made as a child, I've only gotten as far as a basic concept or script. One movie idea I remember having when I was about 10 years old was a Toy Story-like movie about a supermarket where cereal mascots like Tony the Tiger and the Rice Krispies elves would come to life after dark and go on adventures. I even thought up a really silly title for it, The Cereal Century. No idea why I came up with that. Now, I know a lot of you are listening to this and thinking, wait, isn't that just Foodfight? And yes, it sounds exactly like Foodfight. So you can imagine my reaction when I found out an animated film of a plot I thought of when I was 10 had been made years later. Although my version would definitely not have had Nazis. Might still have had Christopher Lloyd though, because I've always liked Christopher Lloyd, but probably not as a deranged brand representative. Some ideas I've had went as far as scripts written just for fun. One script I wrote was basically a shameless Jimmy Neutron ripoff about a young scientific genius who builds a spaceship and goes into outer space with his two friends and comes across aliens. Although I guess that also sounds a lot like Explorers, but I never saw that movie until many years later. It also felt like the kind of family movie Robert Rodriguez might decide to make. When I came across that script again, I reread it and winced at how terrible it was, but that happens to anyone who goes back and looks at that earlier work. Do you know how often I watch my early videos? Never. Maybe a few of you have fond nostalgic memories, but I struggle to watch them. And of course, like anyone, I've dabbled in scripts based on already existing ideas. I once wrote a Super Mario Bros. Movie script which had the familiar story of Bowser kidnapping Princess Peach and Mario and Luigi traveling through the Mushroom Kingdom to save her, although it did make some of the reactions to Peach in the animated movie extra amusing to me personally. Why? Well, some people online complained that Peach was too much of a girl boss and that they made her too sassy. And I thought, if people thought she was sassy in the movie, you don't even know, because in my script from 20 plus years ago, she constantly talked back to Bowser and made fun of him. Think Princess Leia from Star Wars, but even sassier. An original script I did write way back in my teenage years was romantic comedy, but again, it's probably really terrible. I also once wrote a fantastical secret agent movie which could be almost described as what if adult-aged Kim Possible fought an army of zombies, and even a Trey Parker, Matt Stone biopic that took an enormous amount of liberties, including ending in a car chase with the Church of Scientology. Again, I'm sure they don't hold up, but that just goes back to my earlier point that you're going to write stories early on that are heavily flawed and are just part of your evolution as a writer or person. It does not reflect badly on you. It's just a natural part of evolving and changing and improving. One script I wrote I'm a lot prouder of was an animated musical with talking animals, which was inspired specifically by Blue Sky movies and, of all things, the producers. I would even win an award for that script. Obviously, there are things I would alter and change in it if I return to it, but again, that's a normal part of the creative process. Now, would I ever actually go through the trouble of making my own movie? Well, that's the tricky part. While technology has gone to the point where most people can pick up a camera or even that telephone and just film one, there's still a lot of resources required. You need a budget, actors, access to locations, the necessary equipment, and all sorts of things. Even something like a documentary requires a lot of necessities to make it a reality. It's why I admire filmmakers like Kevin Smith and John Waters, who had the ambition to take it upon themselves to make it possible. They were inspired to take the steps to turn their scripts into films that would be watched all over the world. Of course, something you might have noticed about those early script ideas I mentioned is how outlandish they are, and that they would require significant budgets to pull off. I even once had a writing professor who would tell me my scripts were too outlandish, cartoonish, and unfeasible, which is a valid criticism. But that's just how my imagination would operate. Any story ideas I've had lean into fantasy rather than realistic situations. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this insight into some of the wild movie ideas I've had over the years, and thank you for your question, Benjamin.